your boy Deontay the Bronze from Milwaukee.
What's up, guys? This is Uriah Faber.
What's up, guys? Stephen One Boy Thompson.
It's Javier Champion, Earl Smith Jr.
Cynthia Calvio.
Hi, this is Michaela Mayer.
Montana and Mark, the Della Rosas.
This is Daniel Miracle Man Jacob. Shout out to Kendrick and Matt.
And you're listening to
the Slip and Dip podcast.
And you're listening
With your boy Kendrick and Matt.
And you're listening to Kendrick and Matt on the Slip and Dip podcast.
Woo! Back at you once again. Slip and Dip podcast. Kendrick Johnson, Matthew Wells, coming at you with episode 38. Looking sparkling as we told you what was going to happen precisely in the octagon and in the boxing ring. Shout out to the baddest man on the planet, Stipe Miocic, for going the distance, doing what he had to do to get his hand raised for a record third consecutive title defense in a row while exposing Francis Ngannou in the process. Hats off to Daniel Cormier for winning away. I didn't even know he could win that. Just did exactly what he was going to do. Outstroke his latest victim and then submitted him in the second round. And definitely shout out to Dallas's own, Dallas native, Earl the True Spence. So in the boxing world, what I've known for the last 3 years, the truth ain't just a nickname. He's that damn good. What you think about all this combat sport action we had all weekend? How does it feel to be right? You finally start joining me. You start, man, this kid just got doing something. So, what? Because we were some people that said that. I think we were like 2 or maybe 3 people out of the 50 that called this fight that said that Stipe was going to win.
No, there were a lot of people that were saying Stipe.
I didn't see it.
It was more.
They didn't go to Vegas because that line was kind of crazy.
The line was stupid. They
didn't go to Vegas.
The line was stupid. There's no reason. I mean, whoever bet on Stipe, I mean, you cashed out. Like, you just got an early Christmas present in January. I don't know what the hell Vegas was thinking having him. I saw it as high as plus 170 at some point, which is just stupid.
Man, I'm so pissed I wasn't in Vegas, bro. When I saw that for it to go the distance, well, you didn't think it was going to go the distance. I thought it was. I would have put $100 and walked away $1,700. I would have never heard the end of that, boy. That would have been, as my boy Scott Van Pelt would say, a good beat.
Yeah, definitely. I would not have taken that bet. I would have definitely gone with Stipe. Like I said on the last episode, if you're asking me to put money on the fight, I'm putting money on Stipe all day. But if you're asking me, like, you know, for storylines and drama and everything, Francis winning would create a whole different set of circumstances, you know, for the outlook of the UFC and the sport. But nevertheless, we do have a damn good storyline in the fact that we got a new record intact. Stipe Miocic, 3 title defenses, as you said, and did it like just executing a spectacular game plan, stuck to it, didn't try to go out there and say, you know what, I can outstrike this guy. He's like, you know what, I'm a better wrestler than this guy. I'm gonna put him on the ground, and I'm gonna wear him down. And
subscribe to that Kendrick Johnson theory. Get your hand raised. F what people say.
Right.
Hey, what do you think about the whole? Well, it's not a narrative. It's a fact. This is actually a fact. The whole him and Dana and stuff like that. Like, we've been knowing that. Like, why all of a sudden it's a big deal just because he took the belt for him? That man is underpaid. He knows it. His grandma know it. Dana know it. So why people all shocked that he did what he did? Like, it's kind of crazy that people that he's beating are making more money than him. Like, that's a public record. So I don't know. People act like that's like a breaking narrative.
Yeah, and the funny thing is like he seems to be okay with it, at least publicly. You know,
come on. Like, what guy gonna be? What guy? Any combat sport? What fighter is gonna be? Cool making more money than him that he's beating up.
I mean, in the fact that he's not gonna go on record and just start bashing Dana about it. Like, he's gonna be professional about it, and behind closed doors, yeah, maybe there's a little bit more heated conversations. And you know, I mean, it's just one of those things. There's a ton of fighters that are underpaid in MMA, especially a champion in the heavyweight division of the most, you know, premier organization in the sport, to definitely be paid more money. But hopefully, you know, when we see these pay-per-view numbers come in, which they're trending pretty good, you know, he'll get points off of that, which means more money in his pocket. But a baddest man on the planet. I also like the fact Stipe's funny, man. Stipe's a funny dude, because in his interviews before the fight, he would never say, "No, I'm not the greatest all time." You know, I'm not that.
Fans.
But as soon as he's got that record attached to his name, I'm the greatest in the world. he went a quick 180 on that. So shout out to Stipe, man. He got the thing done. But I do want to address this over on the topic of the main event of UFC 220. People, stop overreacting to what this means for Francis Ngannou's career. The dude started fighting 4 years ago. He's still learning. He went in there with the baddest man on the planet and went 25 minutes. Did not get knocked out. He will learn so much from this experience that, you know, he just got the cheat codes to the test. Like, he got all the answers to the test in the world out of that fight. Now it's up to him and his camp to go implement that in the next training camp.
This may sound silly. He just needs to be an okay wrestler. I think what he's doing, he needs to keep doing it. But the main thing is he has to get more technical with what he do. It's fun because he got technical. He could have got the belt on Saturday because he wouldn't have missed. Those you take away 9 out of 10 of those misses and like two or three lands, he can have that belt right now. It's that big a difference. It's inches. So he was like, oh, of course you got to work on the cardio, just in case you got to go far. Because one second, I thought my man was drunk. I ain't never seen nobody stumble to their stool and then get hit in the face or the chin. Have you ever seen that? Everybody taking any like physical damage, really?
I've seen it in the heavy. It happens in the heavyweight division all the time.
He's like, I thought you would think he just got caught with one of his bombs by Stipe, which he did in that round. Stipe just basically made him wear his weight down, and that weight just wore him down. He couldn't breathe. I guess he got up. My man, he was drunk off of exertion.
Yeah, it's one of those things, man. He definitely figured out. You know, he said it himself. He underestimated Stipe, which is crazy, but he underestimated Stipe, and he learned a lot, man. He learned a lot. He's got to get in the gym. He's got to work on his cardio for sure. Definitely got to work on his takedown defense a little bit. I mean, he stuffed a couple of takedowns, but not good enough. Work on that and develop. I mean, he's got a jab when you see him training, but you got to use the jab in the fight.
He got to be able to attack off of it.
You got to set up the haymakers. You just can't wail the haymaker. That'll work against. Admittedly, that'll work with about
95% of cats.
95% of the heavyweight division, because the heavyweight division is super shallow. But there's 3 guys right now I do not see Francis beating, and obviously right now that's Stipe. I don't see him beating Fabricio, and I don't see him beating a healthy Cain Velasquez.
I can see him beating Fabricio. I can't see him beat Cain. I can see him beating Fabricio.
I don't see that happening, man. I don't see it happening. But the reaction to this, man, like there's so many people like ready to write Francis off, like, oh, he's overrated, most hyped, like overhyped person, most one-defensive fighter ever. Hey, the dude just started fighting. Relax.
Yeah, let me chime in.
People forget Stipe got knocked out by Stefan Struve, and look where Stipe is right now. People forget about that.
Yeah, but this whole weekend, man, I'm kind of glad we wasn't in Boston. I've been pissing some people off. Why do these people in the MMA world, when everybody knows you're supposed to go right, they go left? We had people jumping off the Francis bandwagon as fast as they jumped off. We had people creating narratives, which we will address. Shout out to Javier Mendez, aka head coach, coming on the show to give it to you live and raw here on the Slip and Dip podcast. Talking about Luke Walko is leaving AKA and making a big deal. We got the whole Dana thing with the belt thing. So, my whole question, I asked you this off air. So, okay, say for instance, he said he's not going to strip Conor. Well, people are going to watch Khabib and Tony. I understand why it's a big deal, but all the drama and the bullshit stories that came out of it is like ridiculous. Like, if you feel that strongly, don't watch the damn fight.
It's not about not wanting to watch the fight.
All the just like crazy, like it's the end of the world.
Answer. It's stupid for Dana to get up there and say. And not say we're stripping Conor, but at the same time you're saying this is for the real belt. It literally made no sense. Dana put himself in that position to get attacked and create this whole storyline, and it's certainly justified. I don't see any reason why people shouldn't be upset or flipped out about it, because it makes no sense to do that. It's like you're having 2 undisputed champions at this like that. No. If you're gonna say anything, like. You know, at that press conference, you might as well have just said, yeah, they're fighting for the interim title. Like, this is the interim title. Or be prepared to say we're stripping Conor. One of the two. You can't just leave it like there's a gray area. Like, why is there a gray area all of a sudden? Only because Conor McGregor's name is attached to the title still. Maybe it's because you have a video game that's about to release and you want to have people buy it because Connor's going to be on the cover or whatever. I don't know. But there's so many different things. Like, I'm not mad at that at all, man. I'm not mad at that at all. If I was there, I would have been like, what do you mean you're not saying you're stripping Connor, but this is for the real title? This makes no sense. And of course, it has nothing to do with not people wanting to watch the fight. Everybody's going to be watching the damn fight. It's the best fight that you can make in the lightweight division.
But we know how the UFC, the machine that is the UFC, works.
They've never done that before. This is unprecedented for them. This is unprecedented.
I guess because I cover professional other
in
outlets.
what other sport does this happen? This is what I'm trying to say. Like, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, it does, but you know, okay, Bob Kraft say, hey, I ain't going to talk about this Tom Brady, Belichick shit. Fools ain't going to be asking 30 minutes later. That's my whole thing.
That's completely different. That's what I was trying to tell you the other night when we talked about this. It's completely different. It would be the equivalent of Roger Goodell coming out and saying, you guys are fighting for the interim Super Bowl next week, or playing for the interim Super Bowl, and we're gonna have the Vikings and Jags fight it out for the the real Super Bowl, or like some shit like that. Like, it doesn't make any damn sense. Like, you have a championship. Is it the full championship? Is it the undisputed, or is it interim? Why is there two undisputeds at the same time? Does not make any sense. Clear it up. Dana had the opportunity to say, yeah, we're going to strip Conor. Didn't say it. It was stupid. The whole thing was stupid. I don't want to harp on it anymore. But it was stupid. It just created unnecessary confusion. Took away from the whole moment of the press conference because that became the whole deal. You had four fighters up there. You had four fighters up there that
one of the best fighters in the world. We're going to talk about this.
Hey, I mean, like I said, Dana.
Four of the best fighters in the world. We talking about people that ain't even in the country.
Dana created that whole mess, man. That's all I'm saying. Like, he shouldn't have even mentioned like the fact that what title that they were fighting.
I agree with you wholeheartedly, but my whole thing is like, we knew he wasn't going to talk about it, but once he said he wasn't going to talk about it, why did people keep asking?
Because there was no answer provided. That's why they kept pressing it, and I don't blame any of the journalists that were there that kept pressing it. Don't blame Ariel. Don't blame anybody else that asked the question and kept asking it. Don't blame Brett, because it makes no sense. It made no sense. But anyways, let's move on from that. Let's
go slip up with a boxing. Earl the True Spence did what Derek James told us he would do just last week in episode 37. Put in that work from the first round. Man, I told you I was in the gym 3 weeks ago. He was sharp as hell, and you saw it wasn't just the bag he was hitting. He was going to work on that body from round 1 to round 7. You know you're a bad man when 3 consecutive fighters have to be saved by their trainer or their corner because they get their ass beat too much. That's how you know you're a bad man.
With all these fighters, man, just getting taken out in between rounds, man. Like, we've seen Lomachenko do it, making dudes quit after landing 4 punches. Like, we've seen Errol after putting that vicious body work. Man, like, Errol, like, there was so much combat sports going on Saturday. You had the UFC, you had Bellator even, which we'll kind of talk about here for a split second. And then we had, obviously, Errol Spence going to work. And, it was just... It's hard to keep up with it all a little bit, but it actually kind of fell into place pretty perfectly. Because right when the fight stopped, and Errol Spence, celebrating his victory after a flawless, well, I wouldn't say flawless, he got tagged a couple of times, let's be real. He did get tagged a couple of times,
but I think that was
shook it off.
That was getting to engage, because if you watch the first 2 rounds, it was easy work, but it was a boring fight, but it definitely was easy work. And he kind of says he in Brooklyn, like, I got put on a little show, take some chances. So he stood in the pocket with him. Lamont Peterson, people gotta get props to Lamont Peterson. There ain't too many people trying to step in the ring with Errol Spence. First off,
yeah. And
then second of all, he knew the only way he could win was to stand toe to toe, and he was ready to go out on his shield like a champ. So I have much respect for him. Just a game to pass him by. You got a 27, 28, going to be 28-year-old guy in his prime. That's a monster. 34, your better days behind you. That's what happens.
Yeah. It was a hell of a fight for Errol, man. He's
next up. I don't know whenever it happens in 2018, your boy will be sitting ringside when Keith, one-time Thurman, and Earl the True Spence get it on. Hey, we're trying to work on getting both of them on the show. Earl's not as talkative, so I'll give him a pass because Derek kind of talks for Earl. But we got to get Keith one time on him and see what he said. He called him sometime Thurman in the post-fight. It got the boxing world all amazed because Earl really hasn't addressed Keith like really in a negative way. but he definitely ready to get those belts. I met this man 3.5 years ago. He said, Kendrick, I barely know you, but I will be the undisputed welterweight champion of the world. They just don't know that yet. He's halfway there.
Yeah, man, I liked it. I do like it. And like I said, so right after Errol Spence got his hand raised, basically, they waved the fight off. Bellator, Roy McDonald doing his thing, becoming welterweight champion of the world in Bellator.
Stop it with saying he's better than Tyron. Tyron gets his ass out of there within 2 in 2018. I put $300 on it. A lot of people talking about that narrative. He might be the best welterweight in the world right now. Bellator may have the first legit champion and that's not in the U. No, he's a good fighter.
But Roy beat Tyron.
Okay, we're talking about then. We're talking about today, 2018. How many times we see people they split fights?
I'm just saying.
Do you think he can beat him today?
I'm just saying.
Do you think he can beat him today?
After all the damage Rory has taken in the past couple of years, yes, I think Tyron will win if they had a rematch right now. Yes. 100%. I think Tyron's improved since that fight. He's gotten exponentially better. But the record still stands at the moment. Roy's got that dub over the man. So, just saying. I'm just stating facts. That's all I'm saying. But yes, I agree. I think if they fought again today, Tyron wins.
With our second guest, we can pick that up with Mr. Dean Thomas, Mr. All-Around comedian, trainer, former UFC fighter. He got like 18 hats. Doing the show once again, making his return to the Slip and Dip podcast. Man, let's talk to these guests, man. I'm fired up, man. We got a little everything to talk about today.
Yeah, man. We'll get right into it. We got Dean Thomas coming up, guys, right here, and we're gonna talk, of course, everything went on this weekend. So here we go. Dean Thomas coming right at you guys.
Please welcome back to the Slip and Dip podcast, making his second appearance. One of the best all-around good guys in the MML game today, straight out of Florida, Mr. Dean Thomas. Shout out to Dean. Thanks for joining us. What's your observation on everything that happened this weekend? You got the Bellator action. You got the UFC 220. Got a little everything going on.
You know what? It was a big weekend for fighting, man. Like it's funny because I didn't even know that Errol Spence had fought. Like, he put on a damn show. So I'm like, yeah, I'm going through Twitter and I'm seeing like everything that's going on. Like Errol Spence fought, and then the Bellator fight, which was an important fight for the welterweights. Like Roy McDonald, congratulations to him. He found his home and he found a way to make himself a world champion. Congratulations to him. And then the UFC, man, like the UFC was a phenomenal event. I happened to be in Boston at the time, but it was a very good event, and just. A lot of things were learned in the UFC on Saturday night. A lot of things happened that were important for each division. Rob Font winning in the bantamweight division proved that he was a top guy by taking out Thomas Almeida. And then most importantly, Francis Ngannou, I think he was kind of exposed, man. I think that's kind of what happens. These guys kind of Francis Ngannou.
You're kind of cutting out there. What'd you say about Francis?
I feel like he's going to get it. I feel like he was kind of exposed, and I feel like the people are going to start figuring him out a little bit, based on his performance on Saturday night. You guys got me? Are we still together?
Yeah, we're good now. So, I mean, how much of that would you attribute to, he's still young in the game and he's still learning what he can do as a fighter?
I mean, a lot of it is, but you know what? I mean, honestly, like, how old is he? He's got to be in his 30s, right?
He's 31.
That's what they say in his birth. That's what they say. We ain't seen his birth certificate.
Okay, he's an African 31, so that's like 40. So, I'm just kidding. Listen, but listen, here's the thing, man. Like, sometimes when you deal with older fighters like that, like, they're young in the game, but it's hard for them to learn new tricks regardless. Just based on whatever it is, like their body type, their personality. I'm sure he's learned a lot from that fight, but I still think it's going to be very difficult for him to overcome some of his shortcomings in that fight. When you talk about a guy like Stipe Miocic, like, he's been wrestling for a long time. So it's easy for him to make these adjustments. He's been boxing for a long time. So it's easy for him to make these adjustments, even though he's a bit older. Francis Ngannou just got in the game and he's older and he hasn't been doing all that stuff for a long time. He may be able to learn some tricks and some defense, but it's going to be very difficult for him to catch up just because he's an older fighter.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, obviously, the cardio was exposed. Like, he doesn't set up punches all that often either. It just seems like he's just swinging like haymakers from the hip. I mean, there's a lot to learn. I think he got, him and his team, I think they got a wealth of knowledge on what he can do and, the holes that he needs to plug up. I mean, next fight out, how like, let's say if he fights within like 6 months from now, how much of an improvement can you make in that time?
Well, it depends on the opponent. See, like, that's the thing. Like, with heavyweights, it's easier to have a bigger impact with a lesser skill set. But and what'll happen is, like, if he fights, let's say he fights a guy like Verdum, I think Verdum would eat him up now after seeing that. You know what I'm saying? Like, he might have beat Verdum if they fought first, but after seeing that, Verdum will go, you know what? If I could just use jiu-jitsu against this guy and don't let him hit me with a big shot, I can win this fight. If I can last 3 minutes with him, I'm going to win this fight. But I think when you're dealing with some of the lower tier guys after the top 10 in the heavyweight division, he's still going to eat those guys up because they don't possess the fight IQ or the speed to be able to deal with a guy like Ngannou. But, unless Ngannou fights past the top 10, I think he might have some problems with some of these guys. I think, a guy like Verdum or some of these other heavyweights that are a little bit more savvy and a little smarter, a little bit more well-rounded and have better foot speed, I'm going to give him problems after watching Miocic do what he did to him.
Are you tripping out on how, like, all these people, like, oh, I had Stipe winning because me and Matt, it seemed like we're one of the few people that had him winning. I actually had to go in 5 rounds and people thought I was crazy because I knew what happened was going to happen. Experience and skills pay the bills. Do you think it's like the general people have not caught on that there's levels to this in certain weight classes especially?
Yeah, what happens is, like, we get fascinated by the offense of some people. Like, we see, and this is what I said. Like, I didn't know. Like, I was leaning towards Francis, to be honest with you. I was leaning towards Ngannou, just because at heavyweight division, like I said, it's easier to have a bigger impact based on certain skill sets. But what happens is we get fascinated by the offense of some people. We've seen it so many times. Like, we saw when Ronda Rousey had that great offense, that one move that she did to everybody. And then we saw Francis, his power, that one thing, that one offensive power move that they have. We get fascinated by that. And it blinds us of the entire game and the entire skill sets. And sometimes we don't see that. And at heavyweight, sometimes you can get away with it. At the women's division, at the bantamweight, at that time, Ronda was able to get away with it, and they're blinded by that. But once it's exposed, we go, you know what? There's a lot more to this. There's levels to this, and there's a lot more than just that offense. So when I was analyzing that fight, I said I was leaning towards Ngannou, but I said it's going to be a big test for him. I said we haven't seen him fight long, and we haven't seen him really be pushed, and that's the game of MMA. Can you fight under adversity? Can you fight when you're pushed? And we saw him get pushed. We saw him under adversity, and he wasn't able to adjust. Once you took away his power, he wasn't able to adjust. And I think that, again, that's going to be very difficult for him because he's gotten away with that for a long time, his entire career. Now he's going to have to find a way to fight without relying on that. And I think that's where we're going to see if he's a good fighter or not. And at 31, I don't know if he's going to be able to pick up them tricks.
African 31?
The African 31, yeah. 41.
41. Dang.
Yeah.
I mean, you put 10 on him. Dang.
Yeah. Anytime you're from another country and you got to add 10. When you're from another country, you got to add 10.
We're not talking about Dominican baseball players here, all right? Let's
yeah,
reel it back in, But, I mean, it's a big thing. I mean, it seems like so many people are kind of forgetting. I mean, you kind of mentioned it, but the heavyweight division is shallow. There's guys that don't have that high fight IQ. People forget Stipe got worked by Stefan Struve not too long ago, and look where Stipe is now. So, I mean, the age definitely is a factor, for one, but adjustments can be made, I think that whoever he gets matched up next, I mean, that's going to be the true test, or true telling of where he's going to head. But like I was telling Kendrick before we came on, I think, like you said, 3 guys in particular, I think Verdum gets him out of there. A healthy Kane gets him out of there easy. But anybody else in that division, I think it's I think it's, Francis can still go in there and do some damage.
Oh yeah. So what? And I've misspoke a little bit when I said top 10. When you're talking about heavyweights, you're really talking about top 3.
Yeah.
Any other division, it's like top 10. Like if you're dealing with welterweights, it's like top 15. Lightweights probably still top 15. Most divisions top 10. When you're dealing with heavyweights, there's like 3 guys, and then the drop off is drastic after the top 3. So yeah. So when you're dealing with heavyweights, it's such a drastic drop off after the top 3.
Yeah, and you also kind of mentioned it like kind of with Ronda. It was kind of like that with the women, until Ronda runs into an Amanda.
And that's what I'm saying. When she ran into Holly, then it was like, okay, so she's human. She's got holes, and then it was easy because when it was, and then I saw, and when I studied Ronda, I said she's really bad actually. Like you take away that arm throw and that arm bar, she's really bad. And which is why it was so easy for Amanda to dominate her. Now she's human. She could come back with the same skill set and even fight some of the same fighters. Even Kat Zingano would do better against her because they know that if you just take away her strong point, she doesn't really have much else. And that was the thing. And this is what a lot of fighters don't get, and mostly what fans don't get. If you take away somebody's strong point, you humanize them. And we get so captivated by that strong point that we just feel like that's the whole game, that's what they do. And a lot of fighters go, oh, he's strong at this, so I'm going to go out there and beat him at that. And we see what happens. And my guy Saba Homasa, we saw him do that this weekend. Saba's a really good friend of mine, and he fought. I can't even pronounce his bro. I can't even pronounce his brother's name.
Judo Thunder.
Friend of the show, Judo Thunder.
I can't even pronounce the brother's name, but he knocked him out with that uppercut because Saba was like, you know what, I'm gonna beat him at his own game. I'm gonna put on a good show. I'm gonna beat him with his own game. But that wasn't the smart thing to do. The smart thing to do would have been. Yeah, the smart thing would have been, listen, let's take him out of his element and beat him at something that he's not good at. But fighters still are not at that point yet totally because they're trying to be so entertaining for the fans.
Hey, I've been preaching that from day one of this show. I'm all about getting the win. I like winners. That's just me. All this whole entertainment, as you know, these people like your guy, when he was backstage walking wobbly, them same people that was clapping and cheering don't care about that, man, and he got a headache for 3 days.
Yeah, like right now they're not clapping, they're not thinking about him, but yet he has a broken jaw. He won't be able to fight probably for a year because of it. And how's he going? He's not going to be able to make a living for himself. Now, had he did the smart thing, fought a smarter, more conservative fight, and just took that guy out of his element, maybe put him on his back, maybe confused him a little bit, and then been able to punch him, he'd have been safer, been able to go home to his family healthy, maybe got his check, and been able to fight again in a couple of months. But he put on a good show, going to be out for at least 6 months to a year, and who knows if he don't get cut? You know what I'm saying? So it's just, we're at this point at the game where it's so convenient for us to be like, oh, the fans, we got to fight for the fans. You got to fight for the fans. But at the end of the day, and the one thing I always tell my fighters, my most important job is to send you home safely to your family. And then next is to win, and then next after that is to finish the fight. But after that, and if you're finishing fights, that's entertaining enough. You know what I'm saying? People are going to have to keep up, but that's entertaining enough. But the most important thing is to go home safely to your family. So, like, right now, all the people that were, like, cheering Saba as he was going through that fight are not thinking about him right now. He's in a hospital. He can put up his all these Instagram pictures of him in the hospital, and people can give him love. But at the end of the day, they're not going to pay his bills for him.
Yeah. Here's a 2-part question. One's piggybacking off of this. Like, one thing that I got impressed with is, as you know, Cyborg has this aura about her. Like, before you meet her, like, it's kind of like she's crazy, she's out there. But like I was telling Matt, going into the Holly fight, she's smart enough to put herself uncomfortable and work on her game. Like, she's smart with Carissa Sills, the best women's boxer in the world right now, who's 10 years younger than her. So anything Holly or any of these girls throw at her, even if they are her size, won't work. Why don't more fighters do that? And then number 2, we got to get you to chime in on this fake narrative that now, because Rory got a belt, he the best guy at 170 because he beat our guy Tyrant last 4 years ago. Or 3 years ago, my bad.
Yeah, so to answer your first question, most fighters don't do that because of ego. A lot of fighters do have an ego. They like to be comfortable. They like to do what's comfortable for them. So they like to pick and choose who they spar with. And they don't want to take themselves out of their comfort zone. It's hard for them to because, they don't want to embarrass themselves. And, you get into this game and it's hard enough. So you just go, you know what, I'm going to do what's comfortable. So they don't want to take themselves out of that. So props to Cyborg for stepping up. And not only did she spar her, but she let it go public. And people may have bashed her, said that she didn't do that well. I thought she did pretty good against Calista Shields. What's her name? Clarissa Shields? Yeah. I thought she actually did pretty good despite, not being a boxer. I thought she did very well. She didn't win the round, but I thought she did. She didn't look totally outclassed. I mean, she did okay. But, I think more people would benefit from just the experience of being in with world-class athletes, regardless of what discipline it is, like whether you're wrestling or boxing or kickboxing. You're going to gain experience from being with top-level people and just being in there and with that, getting their composure and just like through just osmosis, getting better, just being with better people. Now, your second question was, what was your second question?
People like my co-hosts are saying that basically Warrior can set claim as being the best 170-pounder in the world because he got the win of the champ a couple years, like 3 years ago.
Listen, here's the thing.
Get him, Dean, get him.
Here's the thing. I mean, I almost feel like, MMA and like boxing, like, there needs to be statute of limitations on like. Honest with you, it's like
you cutting out, Dean.
Yeah. Oh snap! Hold on. You there?
Yeah.
I'm
You
losing
cutting
my
out.
battery. That's the problem.
Okay, I was trying to cut you out. I was like, Arr.
You there, homie?
Yes, sir.
You.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
I think there needs to be like statutes and limitations. There needs to be like stats. Like that win was, it was 4 years ago. It's like, man, when are we gonna get over that? You know what I'm saying? Like if the Patriots beat the Eagles 4 years ago, they're different teams now. You know what I'm saying? Just like Roy's a different fighter, Tyron's a different fighter. Like you can't claim him being the best fighter because he beat him 4 years ago. I mean, if he beat him this year, that's one thing, but that was 4 years ago.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I find that like we just, things. I mean, there needs to be there needs to be some type of that needs to be factored in. Sometimes, that really needs to be factored in. It's like Conor McGregor beat Max Holloway. What was it? 5 years ago. That was 5 years ago. Max Holloway is a completely different fighter today, and I think would give Conor a better fight today than he did 5 years ago. So you can't really ride on that win for so long. It's like, yeah, I beat you. Yeah, that's 5 years ago, dude.
Well, let me ask you this, Dean.
People graduated high school in that time.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, let me ask you this, Dean. So everybody's been praising, Stipe for going in there, sticking to the game plan, exposing Francis, his takedown defense, grinding him out, wearing him down, executing the perfect game plan over 25 minutes. Why don't people give Tyron that same love for doing the same thing?
Haters.
Well, yeah, the thing is, I got to be very careful. I gotta be very careful.
Getting hit is not cool.
Nah, the thing is, there's two reasons why. Like, I think more people wanted Stipe to win that fight. Honestly, in a sense, we kind of wanted Francis to win because Francis is the quintessential big heavyweight guy with power that we want to win. But at the same time, I think a lot of people were rooting for Stipe. So when people are rooting for Stipe, no matter how he wins, they're going to be happy for him. Even though we was kind of like, yeah, man, it'd be cool to see Francis Ngannou win, but people were still rooting for Stipe, so they're happy for him. Another thing is that another reason, and I think this may take precedence even over that, is that we saw how hard Francis Ngannou hits, and that was what they used to promote the fight. So it was like we understood why Stipe didn't stand and trade with him, and people understood it. They were like, you know what? I'm not standing with that guy either. I need to get this guy down. So I think people understood why. When Tyron was fighting, Steve Wonderboy, if they just kept showing clips of him just walking out, knocking guys down, people would have understood it better. But they kind of promoted Wonderboy as like, this happy-go-lucky, all-American kid, just la 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 la. Like
kids,
like he should, like he was licking on a lollipop instead of like this really kill like this animal. They didn't promote him like an animal. when you talk about Damian Maya, they didn't promote him as an animal, they're a slick jiu-jitsu guy. They promoted Tyron as the animal, so they expected Tyron to go out there and be that animal. But Tyron is a smart fighter. You know what I'm saying? He's a smart fighter. When it comes time to be an animal, he could be an animal. But at the end of the day, he's a smart fighter.
How's that injury healing up?
He's getting better. He got the surgery. He's doing rehab. We worked out in LA a couple weeks ago. I know he's still working. I haven't talked to him in a couple days, but he's still just moving around, itching. He's itching to fight, though. He is getting excited to fight, though.
Who do you think's gonna be next up for the champ?
I mean, he wants George, but there's no way George is gonna come back and fight him. So I think probably RDA, really, Rafael dos Anjos. I think he's probably gonna be the guy, but it's just up to who Dana and them say. But for me, honestly, Tyron's a little bit more picky than I am, and he should be because he's the one who has to fight him. But for me, I'm like, Tyron's going to beat them all. So at the end of the day, like, it don't really matter to me. So listen, but fellas, I gotta get up out of here, man. I got some people waiting on me.
Yeah, no doubt. I was about to say, man, I appreciate the time. I know you were about to roll out. So
thanks, man.
Yeah,
I definitely will be in touch.
Yeah, man. I apologize for having to cut out so early on y'all, man. But I always got y'all's back, man. Anytime y'all need me to come on and maybe share some insight on any issue, man, I got your back.
Appreciate
Absolutely,
it,
man. Thanks for the time, brother. We'll
that
talk
was
to you soon.
put some behind the scenes producing on.
Oh yeah. I got you, man.
Absolutely.
All right, fellas. So I'll catch up with y'all.
All right, man.
Thanks.
Take it easy. Thank you.
All right. Peace out.
Peace. There he goes. Man, we ain't had two people spit fire that we couldn't even predict it, man.
Yeah, Javier Mendez, which you guys are about to listen to next. We did that interview right before Dean, and man, he spits a lot of just in-depth knowledge, clears up some rumors, like just kept it 100 the whole way through. And man, you guys are really gonna enjoy that.
And just a vouch for the show, I know Matt's not as vocal as I am about this. People, we are professionals. Take this shit very seriously. We talk to the people and we watch the damn fights. We don't go off speculation. 95% of the stuff I put out there, I've talked to the person. Matt's very thorough. We don't put no rumors. When you listen to Slip and Dip, you can go back on episodes we've already done and see how spot on we are because we talk to the damn people and we watch the damn fights.
Yeah, man. So I got my confirmation for Austin today. I will be heading out to UFC Austin, February 18th.
Hey, man, I'm being LA. It'd be Austin.
Yeah, man. I'm gonna take that little road trip down there to Austin and ATX. Watch some good fights, man. Some big names on that card. Big names. A lot of people pay attention to. Big names that a lot of people pay attention to. Sage Northcutts of the world, the Derek Lewises, the social media king. We got our boy James Vick, and of course the headliner Yancy Medeiros Cerrone. So I mean, it's a good card. It's a good card. It's a sneaky good card. I think there's going to be a lot of highlights that comes from this. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm going to try to get some guests out of that whole deal on that trip down there too. So it'll be a fun weekend. But let's not hold you guys up any more. Let's get right into our interview with Mr. Javier Mendez, who's very happy to be at the head of AKA right now. Things looking way up for them in the moment. DC, Haynes on the verge of coming back. Boy, Luke Rockhold, hint, hint, hint. He'll talk about that on the verge of another title. Of course, Khabib fighting for the undisputed title against Tony Ferguson.
Who you shoot at?
I'm just saying. Anyways, here we go, guys. Javier Mendez, and that'll wrap up episode 38, and we'll see you guys next.
Please welcome to the Slip and Dip podcast. One of the most well-rounded perennial trainer of the year candidates you can have in the MMA game, Mr. Javier Mendez. Straight off the big victory to this Saturday night. What did y'all do that we didn't see coming? I didn't see y'all striking with this man. And DC looked like he was a professional striker, not the wrestler.
Well, the thing about MMA, it's you got to try to, sharpen all your skills, and that's what we do here. We work on everything. We don't just work wrestling. We don't work just jiu-jitsu. We don't work just boxing, Thai boxing. We do everything. So DC outstriking him doesn't surprise me. because DC was actually sparring with professional boxers. So we have some fighters, professional boxers, some professional kickboxers, and he was doing the same to them. So it's not surprising at all that he was able to do what he did.
Yeah, it was a pretty impressive performance. I mean, I think a lot of people going into the fight predicted like if Volkan couldn't get him out of there quickly, then Cormier was going to obviously implement his wrestling, and pretty much the way I said it was basically going to be like the third Anthony Johnson fight. That's the way I looked at it. If Volkan couldn't land a shot early, it was just going to be DC the rest of the way. And kind of watching it play out through the first round, it looked like DC was a little hesitant, but I guess he was just trying to kind of figure out the pieces. Is that what you saw? And then, obviously what happened in the second half of the round.
Well, what ended up happening is what myself and Crazy Bob Cook were telling him to do. I think he tried too hard to do it, and we wanted the fight to go to the ground. We didn't want him to stand because his opponent was, a super dangerous striker. So we wanted him to work his good striking because he has great striking. We wanted him to use his striking to get to the wrestling. Well, it didn't quite work out that well because at the beginning he wasn't really using his striking as well as he could. He was more focused on the takedown, and you can't do that. You have to. If you're a good striker, you should be a good striker. You should never ever take that away from your arsenal. And DC at the beginning did. Then he settled down, and then that's when he started getting into the groove. The one thing about DC is that if you hit him, he's not gonna want to wrestle you or this and that. He's gonna want to hit you back. So he obviously got hit during that exchange, and so he wanted to hit him back. So he's always been that way since the very first day he came to me. Is like, if you catch him with a good shot, he's not going to want to wrestle you. He's going to want to hit you right back. That's the type of fighter he is.
Well, to say that Saturday basically came down, not only did y'all have the better fighter and athlete, but y'all had the more experienced athlete. How much to having extra levels to this game affect the outcome of the fight?
Oh, it was huge. DC said it. He just pinpoint on what he said. It's like, it's not his time. He doesn't have the experience to be able to go, the distance on a round like this. Outside of catching with the KO, he wasn't going to be able to handle the pressure, and he's 100% correct. That's what ended up happening, and you're going to see him back. I mean, his opponent's a really tough guy, and he's not done. You could very well see him holding the title someday soon.
Yeah, I mean, it's still relatively young for him. I mean, he pretty much came out of nowhere last year, racked up a bunch of wins in spectacular fashion. And then, of course, as DC said, I liked his quote, he said he's like he ran through the tournament and found yourself deeper than where you wanted to be. But, yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, I think Volkan will be there and probably hold the title after DC's gone. I think it's really interesting that DC is, he's got that hard out date set. How as a coach and a trainer as his, when he says he has that hard date set, how hard are you going to hold him to that and make sure that he actually does quit when he says he's going to quit?
I'm not going to hold him to anything. That's on him. I've been in this game long enough to know that whatever they want, they're going to do. If he says I'm done, then I wish him well, and I love him to death, and then we'll still be involved as a team because he's our wrestling coach, and he'll be involved in our side of it. If he's not done, then I support that too. So I have not known him to say something he doesn't mean. So based on the fact that he has been saying it in almost every interview, and he has been saying this for quite a long time, years past now he's been saying this, that he wasn't going to go past 40. So I think it's going to be very difficult for him to go past 40 based on him being the type of person he is. He's always said what he wanted to do, and he's always done it. So, I don't see him going past 40, but if he does, I'm okay with that too. As long as he's healthy, as long as he's still able to do it, I'm okay with that. But I see him probably doing what he said he's going to do. I don't see any reason why he wouldn't. He's always done everything else he said he was going to
do. Switching gears from BC, what is your mindset? What is your mindset going to the whole Habib Tony angle? The fact that y'all been down this road before, but we haven't seen the actual result of it. Is it like the same thing y'all been doing, or how's that go?
Well, you know, the fight with Habib and Tony on this time around is going to be similar to the first time around as far as the game plan and what we're going to do. It's not the Barboza fight. I mean, so, you know, whoever wants to study Habib, go ahead and study him because, you know, we fight depending on what the opponent is like. So everybody's always trying to analyze Habib. And the problem you're always going to have is Habib is always learning. He's always getting better. He's adding new wrinkles. And, you know, between myself and his father back home, who's one of the greatest coaches, I believe, in the world, he's got great coaching, you know. So he's at home with his father, and then he comes with me, and we work on things, and I always remind him what I want him to do. And, you know, trying to figure the puzzle of him is going to be very difficult because he's getting better on his striking all the time. And you know, how do I know that? Because, you know, I have him sparring world champions. You know, I have one of my fighters who's one of his main sparring partners who's a world Sandat champion. He just actually won the title again up in France. And that's the main sparring partner for Habib, and he's fine with the stand-up. They're not getting beat by these guys. He does fine. You know, and with time, people will see that he is a lot better striker than they give him credit for. The thing is, he's so dominant on the ground that it's kind of hard to visualize him being a good striker because his ground is so far above everybody else's.
Yeah, would you say it's just like a thing to where, you know, he is so obviously dominating on the ground, and like you said, we saw that in the last fight, I think, with Edson, is that, you know, he was very fluid in his striking, but then, you know, it seems like he would get so confident to where his striking is so good, but, you know, if he gets in close enough range, he's just going to go to the wrestling because that's where he can just completely dominate a fight. I mean, is that kind of like his mindset, that what you've seen is like, I'm good enough to strike, but why do that when I have this clear route to victory?
Yeah, that's correct. That's correct, and that's the way his father trains him. That's the way I train him. His father and I think alike. And this is our mentality, and it's no secret, okay? When you can find someone in the world at 155 that can beat him on the ground, then you got a road to victory against him. But guess what? There is no one.
What does that supreme confidence come from his camp? Because I know you've been talking for the last 3 years or so. I know from the first time I met you, you said Habib Nurmagomedov is the best fighter at 155 without having the belt. You were telling me that before Conor even came in. So where does that confidence come from, other than he's got that O in his loss column?
Well, the confidence for me, the reason why I have that kind of confidence in him, because, you know, the one thing that people seem to forget, and I've mentioned it, is since he's been with me in 2012, he's never lost a sparring session ever in the years that he's been with me. The 5+ years, he's never lost a sparring session. He's never been tapped by anybody. I've never seen him tap. I've never seen him lose a sparring session. I might see him lose a round here and there, but he's never lost a session, ever. I can't say that about anybody else, but I can about him.
Impressive. That's very impressive. How much truth is it to when I think DC tweeted, he said something in an interview or something about Khabib gives him the business when it comes to grappling?
You know how Daniel's a beast, and you know, Habib is no joke in the wrestling. Now he does give everybody help, but I mean, let's face it. I mean, Daniel's, you know, he's a light heavy. Habib's a lightweight, so Habib can do really well. Yes, he does well with anybody, but you know, there is a limit, right? I mean, that's like saying, you know, Habib goes at it with Cain Velasquez and they go toe to toe. Okay, come on, you know, it's like, all right, you know, the coach is smoking crack or something, because, you know, that's just not going to happen. It's just not going to happen.
Javier,
but he does extreme well.
Javier, I do have to ask. I mean, obviously, surrounding this title fight is the question of what title are these guys fighting for? That was like the biggest thing that came out of that press conference when, you know, Dana White's up there saying the winner of this fight will be the real champion, but they're not stripping Conor. How is that affecting you guys? Because you guys, I mean, there's no clear answer on what title this is.
Well, to me, it's very clear, 100% clear, and Dana said it. It's for the real title. So to me, what they do with Conor, they do with Conor, but he's fighting for the real title. That is as clear as day to me. There's no, you know, I don't know why the mix-up is caused by that. It's caused by media, caused by what promotions say, but this is legit title. It's how they're gonna do the other. I don't know, but I do know 100% it's not for interim title, because this I do know. Habib will not fight for interim title. Will not do it. So since it is signed, since it is done, 100% it's the real title.
How dangerous an opponent is Tony? Do you think he's the second best in the division?
How big is what?
I said, how dangerous is Tony for what y'all got going on, and do you think he's the second best in the division?
Tony's he's very, very dangerous. He very well could be our toughest test. We'll see, but I'm looking at him like our toughest test to date, because Tony can finish you on the feet. He can finish you on the ground. He's got so many different ways to finish you. So he's a very, very, very dangerous opponent, and I take him very serious because I respect what he does. He's a man with confidence. He's a man that's on a 10-feet fight win streak, and he believes he can beat anybody. It doesn't matter, heavyweight, lightweight. He don't care. He can beat anybody in his mind. So an individual like that is super, super dangerous, and I'm looking at him as our most dangerous opponent to date. If that comes into reality come fight night, we'll see. But my vision of him is he's our toughest opponent to date.
Very cool. Yeah, it's interesting to see Tony's mindset. Like, Tony's extremely confident. Obviously, Khabib's very confident. I mean, this is a fight. I was back there in Vegas when the fight was supposed to happen last, and yeah, it obviously fell apart. But how heartbreaking was it? Because I mean, Khabib, even though he seemed under the weather and obviously he fell ill, couldn't weigh in, he still seemed confident in the few times that I spoke with him that week.
Yeah, well, the thing of it is like, okay, he had back surgery. We all know this, and okay, now, obviously the weight cut caused that to happen, but he was going to make the weight. See, too many people have made issues of the fact that he couldn't make weight, so this is what happened. But no, a lot of the times in preparation for weight cuts, some of these guys, their body fail them in one area or another. Sometimes fighters try to cut weight and they get kidney stones. And I mean, it doesn't mean they wasn't going to make the weight. It just means that, unfortunately, something happened to their body at that particular time. We've seen it time and time again, And in this case, too much was made of him not being able to make weight versus his body just failed him in the process. It's happened a lot. This is not the first time it's happened. If you look at all these other fighters, as a matter of fact, if you think about it, since the California State Athletic Commission did this thing where they make the guys weigh in earlier, there's been more people that have had trouble making weight than in the past. Isn't that funny, right? Because I think it's because they're doing it in the earlier morning, and it's causing these guys to put more stress on their bodies, and stress is a mother. And I think that what's causing these guys is the lack of sleep because of having to get up early to do the weight cut. I think it's causing a lot of these bodies on these fighters that normally would have made it to fail. Look at the stats. You'll find I'm 100% correct in what I'm saying.
No, that is my bread and butter right there. Like, I talk about that on this podcast so much. I hate weight cutting. I hate the idea of it. But what is? Do you have a perfect scenario for weight cutting in mind? Like, what would you think would be the ideal way for these guys to get on the scale healthy, make weight, and not be drawn out, not be missing weight, not having to wake up early and go through all that extra stress?
Well, if you want my perfect way of it, would do it with 2 days before and do it late, and like they used to do. Have them weigh in for the public, but do it 2 days out so they have more time. But that won't happen because think of all the money it'll cost a lot of these small promotions. That means they got to house fighters for 3-4 days, where they normally would house the guys for 2 days. That wouldn't work. But that would be my ideal situation, where you have a lot of fighters make weight and you have a lot of fighters come in super strong come fight night because they have 2 days to recover.
Yeah, I
like that's going to happen. I think going to happen.
Why was everybody so, I won't say secretive? How come, like, when everything, like what you just said about Habib, how come people didn't? Because I was in Vegas when it happened too. How come people didn't come out right then or within by fight night and say what you just told us? How come it was like it was very secretive, and that's how people come up with conspiracy theories? Because if somebody from his camp, like you said, what you just said, like that Friday or that Saturday morning, none of this would have, in my opinion, wouldn't have lingered.
Yeah, and the thing about Habib, he didn't even tell me. He didn't even tell me what went wrong. He just all I did. This is the thing, you guys. In all my years of coaching guys, I've never been involved in weight cuts ever. Because I guess when I was a fighter, I never had anybody with me. It was always by myself. So no one told me how to cut. I made weight on my own. Had no one there to support me in the weight cut, nor did I care to have someone there. So I guess as a coach, I've done the same thing. So since I'm no expert at it, I'm never there for the weight cuts. I'm never there watching the guys' weights. I always leave it upon them. They're professionals. They should know how to make weight, and I just took it from what I did. So what they do is they get professionals that are the nutritionists that help them with the weight cuts and how to do it correctly. So I'm not an expert in any of that, nor should I try to be, because I don't desire to be in that arena. I have the people that they know what they're doing, or fighters that know what up they can be with the fighters, but I personally don't do it.
Shift to a more fun topic. What do you think DC ranks at in the top 10 fighters of all time, MMA, pound for pound of all time? Would you put them in the top 5?
I 100% will put him in the top probably 3, in my opinion, and the reason being is that realistically, if you look at what happened, he really's never really lost if you really think about it, but because of that asterisk, that happened, it's unfortunate because, that individual can't be considered the GOAT either, of all time. But I consider, and I would have said differently had the outcome been different. I would have said he is the GOAT, but he can't do that based on what happened. So to me, I put him in the top 3 regardless of what happened, but that's my opinion, and I believe that wholeheartedly, because who has fought as a heavyweight spotless, never gave up one round as a heavyweight, beat all these heavyweights and never lost a round, and he comes in the light heavyweight division and he just destroys everybody there, and then we know what happened after that. And so for me, I put him in the top 3.
Who's number 3?
Well, it's between him and there. I look at someone like him and Anderson Silva, all those guys right in that little mix,
Yeah. GSP is always in that mix, all those names. I got it. I like it.
Yeah. To me, it's right in line with the GSPs, the Andersons, they're right there, That's my opinion.
I want to ask you about another guy you got in your camp, Justin Willis. How good can this guy be?
Justin Willis, sky's the limit with that kid. He's so confident in his abilities, and he's a very he's a very quick learner, and he's very mentally strong. So I have no doubt that he'll be fighting for a UFC title sometime soon.
Dang, that's pretty strong. Yeah, he's definitely got the confidence. Go ahead.
Yes, he's got the confidence. He has the confidence, he has the skills, and he has the mindset.
Yeah,
and he's interested because you're either going to love him or you're going to hate him, but you're going to pay attention to him because he'll make sure you do that.
Javier, can you help us get the man on? I talked to him today. He said he was at the doctor. How can we get the man himself, Mr. DC?
Oh, man, he's very difficult. He's got a million things going on. It's very hard. You'd have to contact him. You'd have to go through his managers, and and that all depends on what they say. And I don't know. Anybody who wants to do anything with him, I just send them to the managers. And what happens from there, I don't know.
Gotcha. So you just train to win the fights.
Yes, that's all my job is just. I myself with all the team, we work on strategies, and we all have our part. I'm the head coach. Crazy Bob Cook is the second in command, and but when it comes to DC, Crazy Bob Cook is the number 1 when it comes to cornering and things like that. But when it comes to game plan, I'm the game planner. I'm the one that's always really sitting with the fighter and talking about a game plan, how we do it, and then we as coaches discuss it, and we all talk. Okay, this is what I think, and if there's something to add, they will add. And normally no one adds anything with the exception of Crazy Bob. Crazy Bob will go, well, I think we should do this. And I said, okay, good. Then there we go. So that's usually what ends up happening.
We are frustrated when people seem to try to create a drama. I went there in Boston for Fight Week, but it seemed like watching from afar that a lot of people try to create drama with the whole Luke situation.
Yeah, there's no drama there, man. Luke is AKA, will always be AKA. I love Luke. Luke's been a big supporter of mine, and I'm a huge supporter of his. And Luke, wherever Luke's at, I'm with Luke. It doesn't matter. How can you? He's never done nothing to me. He's always been good to me. When I needed help, he was there for me, always. So how the hell would I turn my back on Luke Rockhold? Because he's better in a situation where he's comfortable, and work-wise, he's a model now. He's got to go to New York. He's doing things, and he spent 10+ years with me, loyal, and driving in frickin' hell of weather and traffic just to get to the gym. And now he's in a very good situation where it's right down the street, and I don't blame him for what he's doing. And I'm like I said, I'm still with him. We're still AKA. I'm still working his corner. So is Crazy Bob. So there's no rift. There's no nothing. It's all good. The only problem I think is when DC, because he wasn't here for DC's camp this time. DC didn't mention his name, not because of anything. It's just, man, it's like, when you're in the damn spotlight, you forget things. I've done it. I've done where I go, God damn it, I forgot to talk about this. It happens all the time. So trust me, Luke and DC are like brothers. They love each other, and they're there for each other. There is zero on that. I think something's made more of it than what Team AKA has made of it, because we all consider Luke Rockhold 100% AKA always.
Beautiful. Yeah, there's a lot of people trying to start that angle, man. I'm glad you cleared it up for us.
Yeah, there's no angle, none, zero. He will always be AKA, always.
Yeah, I do want to ask you one other quick question before we let you go. The fight, the second fight against John Jones for DC, sitting cage side for that fight, it looked like that was, obviously before the ending came. DC striking, in his confidence and, slipping and dipping the punches, staying in John's face, would you say, that was one of his better, striking performances, obviously before the unfortunate ending?
Yeah, 100%. He was on point. He was actually making John miss a lot and countering and hitting him. He was actually outpointing him. He was doing exactly what we wanted. But then what he did that Bob and I didn't like is he stopped putting the punches together. He was more like goading John, like, come on, I got you. So we didn't like that. He does that in the gym too, and I yell at him for all the time, like, cut that shit out. I don't like you doing that. So, and the thing is with John, he's got such a beautiful left kick, and the last time we were working on that same thing because John has a beautiful kick, and the first time he hurt DC with the body kick. And so we were telling them, you got to keep your hand, you got to work. So it wasn't like a shock that kick came. What was a shock is that DC fell for it. When you watch the kick, DC kind of looked like he thought he was going to go low, and John went high. It was so damn quick. It wasn't a great kick. It was a great kick. What can you say? It was a great kick. DC was prepared. Everybody did their job. DC did his job, except for he didn't continue the output like we would have wanted him to. He started like I got you, and by all means, it looked that way until that kick.
Yeah, it's one of the things I take away from that fight, man. It's I felt like it sucks that he, it didn't go his way, because I felt that was one of his best performances, striking and confidence-wise. Obviously he's had so many other fights where he just dominated guys, but I liked that performance up until got caught with that kick. But it's I just wanted to hear your take on that as well, to see if I wasn't too far off base with that. So
you're 100% on base with that. I can't think of another fight where he's looked as good as he did then, and I can't think of another fight where he's looked as sharp in the gym before that fight. He looked so goddamn sharp before that fight. So if you look at my interviews and you hear what I say, you go, goddamn. And I said, this is what I said. I said, this is going to be such a close fight. He's better than it's ever been. I go, the one person that screws up is going to be the winner. Well, we screwed up.
But That's the best way to go about it here.
Yeah.
Thanks, Javier, for coming on and spitting fire as always and setting the record straight, because that's one thing I like talking about you. Like, you know, I'll never put out anything unless I talk to you directly, because people keep putting out these false narratives and running with them like they're stories. So they're getting confirmation from the sources they sell. We're not in that game.
Exactly.
We're not in that game.
There's no risk with Luke. We're still AKA family, you know, and even if Luke decides to train wherever, even if Luke's with Greg Jackson or with American Top Team and that's where he makes his home, he's still AKA. I don't care. He's still AKA.
Will you be out there in was Australia?
Yeah, I'll be there. Myself and Crazy Bob will be there.
All right, cool, man. Appreciate your time, and thanks for coming on once again, Spitting Fire. We will shoot it to you on Facebook so everybody can see Javier Mendez, one of the best pound-for-pound MMA trainers in the world, spitting fires and setting it straight on the slip and dip where we get the facts right. Right, Mr. Matthew Will.
Right. Appreciate it, Javier.
All right, you guys. Thanks for having me up. All right, man. Talk to you guys soon.